US aid has been the front for all terrorism. ISIS, Al Qaeda, Al Shabaab, Boko Haram, the jihadists in the Sahel region, they're all funded by CIA. And France was funding them, training them, giving them weapons.
You are saying USAID is the one causing all the trouble, but they are there also saying we are fighting all this trouble.
No, they're never fighting. They keep the terrorists at bay. They train them more. They feed them. It's like you have a lion, and you chain that lion, and you say to the people, "Hey, I'm the zookeeper. I'm just keeping this lion. I'm fighting this lion." But in fact, you're not fighting the lion. You're just feeding the lion. You're making the lion fast, fat, and strong. And when the puppet doesn't agree with you, or when the puppet is disposed by its people, what you do is you release the lion on them. One of the most renowned that the whole world awakened to this reality is Taliban. America spent 3 trillion and 20 years fighting Taliban to just leave the Taliban to take Afghanistan.
This is Femi Shuewu for Africa Web TV. Welcome to another episode of the Africa Narrative Podcast. Today we have somebody who was already on our podcast before, Abdi. Today we're going to speak about neocolonialism and the ongoing theft of African resources. We're going to talk about colonial religions. We're going to also talk about pan-Africanism and the present leadership shown by the Sahel countries. If you have not subscribed to our channel, this would be a great time to do that. We are trying to tell the African narratives one frame at a time, bringing knowledgeable people to the podcast so that we as a people, we as a continent can go forward. So, Abdi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Femi, again.
What exactly do we mean when we are talking about neocolonialism?
I think most of us have learned about colonialism in school. We talk about it. People know that Africa was colonized by majority of the European continents. They've in the Berlin Conference, they shared Africa like a piece of steak. But now we live in a different types of colonization. We're not anymore colonized physically, but we're also mentally colonized. And they also have they've taken what's the most important for our freedom of self-determination, which is our resources. So colonialism wasn't only about controlling black people or sending troops, checkpoints. It was actually a way to extract resources from the continent back then. But now Europeans have had some kind of renaissance or awakening, let's call it, or they got very smart in how they do their day-to-day theft. So now instead of sending troops, they send men with suits. And neocolonialism is basically that Africa, one of the most wealthiest continent in the world, and its resources being funneled out through neocolonialism. A trade is when you come to me and we negotiate and you buy my resources with something I agree with, but that's not the case. So neocolonialism is also, the banks are involved. The banks, it's not only the capitalist corporations, but also the big banks like IMF, World Bank, France, the National Bank of France, who prints money for almost 5 or 6 West African countries. And to get out of neocolonialism, there is no blood going to be shed this time, but it's a smart game. Now we're playing a chessboard game, a mental decolonization. And it depends on when you meet leaders like Burkina Faso or Mali or Niger. It also, just we have these great leaders who have a great initiative for Africa and they want to free Africa, they want to liberate, they want to unite Africa. It won't work unless their population is behind them. And now for the first time in Africa, we see that the richest African man, Aliko from Dangote, he's a Nigerian guy, and Dangote is I think biggest in the world, not only in Africa. Of course, it's the biggest in Africa, but it could be also one of the biggest oil refinery processing factories that exist now. When people like this, billionaires and African people who are saying, okay, we want to invest in our country, in our resources, we want to have independence, that's cutting the neck of the snake completely, because Nigeria is one of the biggest crude oil countries, but what they do is they send their resources to Europe. It gets refined there into petroleum, into gasoline, or into whatever, and it comes back with a heavy cost on them. Africa almost spends $16 billion or more, not even less, but it could be more than that, to just take back their resources that have been refined or reprocessed in Africa. There is a thin line between colonialization and neocolonization when it comes to how our resources are refined, how our resources are processed, and with what amount. It's like you come to me now, pretty good example, Belgium, the country who has the best chocolate. I like to always use that as an example.
Is that Belgium or is it Switzerland that has the best chocolate?
They can fight about it, but they both don't have cacao tree. That's what we know. I don't even know what chocolate is best or that chocolate is chocolate to me, but they have no one cocoa tree in their countries. So where does that come from? It comes from Ghana, it comes from Cote d'Ivoire, it comes from other African country nations, but then
and some in South America.
In South America, the global South in general. So when the resources come back, when the finished chocolate comes back, the farmer who grew all those can't even afford to buy it. So that's what neocolonialism is, basically, in a very simple example. Antwerp, my city where I live, is the capital city of diamonds, but all those diamonds are stolen from Congo or Liberia or Sierra Leone.
Does Belgium have a diamond mines?
No,
Antwerp?
They don't. They don't have any resources worth value. I don't even know. Really hard to say what resources Belgium has, but they like to say we are the world's diamond center, or we have the best chocolate. Of course, they have the best beer. I think that's true. They have the best beer because they grow the wheat also there. But I don't think alcohol is a good thing. Why don't African leaders, they've been giving this cacao seeds or cacao plantation to the Europeans, all the money that they have gained from that cacao selling, why don't they build their own factories?
Which is the role international corporations are playing in modern day colonialism.
Neocolonialism is basically run by a different organizations, but they are in like one hand with 5 fingers, you can say. The media plays a big role. The corporations, the organizations, the big corporations like Apple, Samsung, Tesla, they all have role in it. And then comes the finance sector. Without a finance sector, these neo-colonial actors cannot play a role. So the media outplays Africa, and they have their own institutions that are actually basically modern day theft. They organize themselves so good that you even wonder, wow, isn't this a mafia tactic? Devaluing the country. There was this singer who didn't want to do Africa Aid in Britain. I don't know. Yeah, remind me.
Fuse ODG.
Yes, Fuse thank you.
ODG.
Fuse. He was like, no, we're not anymore going to be doing.
Do they know it's Christmas in Africa? And when you read the text, it says a lot of demeaning things.
Voila. And he said one of the biggest point that Fuse had was, whatever you guys are doing now is devaluing Africa. So we've been doing that. We've been playing the poverty porn, making Africa. And what that helps with the institution is it lowers the value of African resources. It lowers the value of African money. And then the media plays a big role by saying Africa is not safe, Africa is poor, Africa is not stable, we cannot invest here. But if Africa was dangerous and poor and not safe, Your corporations are here from 1960s, especially after colonization finished. These new corporations that came in are still there, and they're still profiting, like one of the biggest gold mining Barrick Golds from Canada, and they have enriched themselves, they have enriched their countries. They don't pay taxes to the African country governments because they bribe the African leaders. Also, this is not only the corporations. I forgot the biggest actors in here. Surprise! Our own leaders who are puppets. That's how neocolonialism works with devaluing Africa's resources.
There is no demand without supply, or there is no supply without demand. So if these people are there doing all of these things that you just mentioned, what's the role of our leaders? Are we just victims?
I don't want to make ourselves victims, but our leaders, what they're doing, I can answer good, and maybe it's connected with that. And they're sending their children to these big schools like Harvard, and they're buying villas in Dubai, in France, southern France, in Monaco. Our leaders are basically, they sold out. And as much as we can be mad at the white man who's robbing us, we should be mad and working to get rid of those leaders who are blindfolding us, holding our mouth not to speak, and holding our ears not to hear when we are trying to awaken our society and tell them, hey, we're not poor, we're very wealthy, but it's just that we are on a long scene in a movie where we're being robbed. It's been like generations after generations, and to be honest, there's in every race, Africans, Europeans, Latin Americans, Southeast Asia, there is in every society there is a greedy person who would sell out their own people. So it's not only common to Africans. European governments are also corrupt, but at least they give some pieces back to their society. But in Africa, they don't even give you crumbs. They're hoarders. So our leaders are really brutal people. African leaders, they're so greedy that they don't realize it's enough. We can share the resources for our own people, and they are the middleman. And some of them, if they change their mind and they say, oh, okay, now I want to share my resources with my community, they'll be taken out, because also there's so much information they have on them. Like when the revolution happened in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, they found like dollars, millions, billions of dollars just sitting in a bedroom. These people are just
the deposed leaders.
Yeah, of the deposed leaders. They just bury their money in their bedrooms. The best example of a leader who's now being the best, if there was a reward to give to our leaders, the best middleman for the theft of African resource, it's Paul Kagame. What Paul Kagame is doing now to his brothers and sisters neighboring country is an example of the middleman.
Kagame, until a couple of years ago, was a kind of hero to many. And it seems like in the last years, something changed. So sometimes I think maybe it's also kind of victim, or they know things about him that now they are putting a gun on his head, like you have to do this. But on the other hand, when I hear his reason for justifying what is going on, I think he also has a point, because he says he's protecting the ethnic Rwandans who are living in that part of the world. But it's like now the PR machine, which is about the West you were talking about earlier, it's like turning against him.
I don't think it's only the PR of the West turning against him. Okay. It's also the activists on the ground in Eastern Goma that have done a tremendous work that has raised the voices of the Congolese people. And now he can't escape. The truth is, smoke and truth will always find a way out. That's an African proverb, I'm sure. And He can say that he's protecting the ethnic Rwandese,
Rwandans.
who are living in Congo. But thanks to the colonial borders, in every country you have ethnic speaking of the other country, and we all get along. There has been conflicts, and then we solve it. But this ethnic Rwandese living in Congo is the smokescreen he's been using the last 5 or 10 years to smuggle the resources of the Congolese people. A few weeks ago, he was like, the sanctions won't do anything to us. And then a few days later, the sanctions started hurting him, because now Germany, Belgium, they're cutting the aid. They're also not anymore putting Congolese resources on the fair trade, which is not also fair. It's like we allowed you to steal and you stole in our own way. I'm not going to say European Resources Center.
Can I just make a point here?
Yeah.
And this plays into what you said earlier. So this is where the chess game that confuses a lot of us ordinary people.
Yeah.
So because you have just mentioned that corporations from the West have been busy plunging our resources and stealing everything, plundering everything. And then you have a person like, to quote you, Paul Kagame, who is facilitating that. So, and now you wonder why the same Western countries are now putting sanctions, because he is doing their bidding.
Yeah.
So why are they now trying to sanction him? So how does a lay person like myself, how do I reason that out? Because you came to my country, told me to go and steal things on your behalf. I steal things on your behalf, and now you are going to sanction me.
I'm going to quote somebody who's also a criminal, Henry Kissinger. He said, being a friend of America is, being an enemy of America is dangerous, but being a friend of America is fatal. So Paul Kagame is probably now dealing with the fatal, not the danger. And the reason they probably did that is, now that Trump administration has taken power, already you've seen the Congolese prime minister or president running to Trump saying, take our resources for protecting us. So even for me, sometimes I cannot understand the big chessboard they're playing. We always figure out later. So maybe all this commotion was created that the president of Congo just wants to sell out his resources to Western society. And don't forget this, Joe Biden spent $1 billion building a railway from Eastern Goma to Angola, so that the resources can just go to the Atlantic Ocean and through ship to America. You can't just say, I'm protecting ethnic Rwandese, just like Putin is saying that he's protecting ethnic Russians in Ukraine. So it's the same story, but now we figured out Ukraine, they're fighting over resources. It had nothing to do with those. Even now, Trump administration has offered Ukraine to sign a deal agreement where they take all their resources, rare earth minerals. And Congo has not only rare earth minerals, they have minerals that is out of this world. They have minerals that can light up lights. Just with, if you put a light bulb on them, they light up. They have minerals that we can't even fathom to think about. So that's it.
And what about political manipulations?
To be honest, Africa has no democracy. Of course, Africans go and vote and they do their things, but if the leader is a friend of the West, he can cheat that, he can do whatever he wants to that election. I rarely think there's few African leaders, very few that you can count with your fingers, that gave up power peacefully and said, oh, I lost this election fair and square, good luck with leading the country. Other than that, they interfere through a lot of ways that we don't understand. And like also now, my favorite country in Africa, Ghana. Ghana had always two political parties that dominated, and they keep changing each other. So there was a third party, but the third party doesn't have that power to come in. US aid. I'm not a big fan of what Trump has done, but the freezing of U.S. aid and the investigation that has been done on U.S. aid has realized that U.S. aid is actually a CIA front where they influence politics. Big church, evangelical church influence the elections, how it come out. The Catholic Church also influence. So I don't think African countries have really the pure essence of democracy where the people's voices are heard.
Is that a problem of Africa, or is it a problem of political interference, which is also economic interference from the West?
Yeah, it's actually the other finger of neocolonialism. The puppet leaders play a circus, and that circus is democracy now. And our people are really now learning, I'm going to vote, I'm going to do that. They do participate in voting. Sometimes there's a vote suppression where the voters are suppressed, like they only create few polling stations in Africa while there are so many people coming out to vote. We don't have secure voting systems like here they use in the West to really understand who won the elections. So there is a political interference, 100%. If the political interference didn't happen, the puppets wouldn't have a place to stay. That's why Ibrahim Traore came into power, because he also said on one of his speeches, it couldn't be done through democratic election. So we had to interfere because the ruling class is strong.
You are listening to or watching African Narrative podcast. My name is Femi Shuewu. Today I have as guest Ali Abdi, who is talking today about neocolonialism and the ongoing theft of African resources. We're going to talk about the Sahel region and the impact those three new leaders are making. And we're going to talk a little bit later about colonial religion and their impact on Africa. So if you have not subscribed to Africa Web TV, this is the time for you to press the subscribe button. You might even want to join us as members so that you get some more perks, some more insight into what we're doing. We've talked about money, we've talked about politics, but the environmental effect of neocolonialism.
The two things that mostly affected by neocolonialism is the people and the environment. How does it affect the people? It robs them of their resources, their self-worth. It takes, of course, Africans are not poor. They're very wealthy people. But in reality, if our resources were to us, I think it would be an African sending spaceships to the space. It wouldn't have been Elon Musk, who actually is also a colonial result of South Africa.
On a lighter note, Elon Musk is African.
No.
He's from South Africa.
Well, and you are American, a white American. If he's not South African, he's just a colonizer who came. Actually, they came to not historically distort. They came in 16th century, 17th century. But what they did after what they did, the apartheid rule, should make them lose all their credit of being an African. But coming back to the question you asked me, it does affect the environment so bad. One, when these corporations come to do business in Africa, not business, sorry. When they come to rob us, when they come to extract our resources for dime, they don't follow the, just to make it simple, there is crude oil in America. There is it's not like the West don't have any resources to mine, but the consequences of mining, it's catastrophic. But it helps them to do this in the global South, not only in Africa, but in Latin America, in Southeast Asia, like Shell and Nigeria. What Shell did to Nigeria, the damage they did to the waters, the rivers, the land, the fertile land, where to come back, we are not people who buy plastic bottled water from the supermarket. We go to the river, we get our water, and nobody has died from that. It's been healthy. But then these corporations come destroy the livelihoods of the local community. and they're not held accountable. They can create catastrophic environmental crisis, and they don't get punished for it. Nobody says nothing to them. Even now in Ghana, what happened to the Galamsey mining, the whole river destroyed, but then the people of Ghana stood up, and I don't know where the situation now is, but they have no respect to our environment. And sometimes it really gives me the feeling, do these people really care about that people are living here? Are they here to kill us? And it kind of make me realize they used to kill us with guns, but now they're killing us with polluting the environment. And they really, everywhere a mine or everywhere there is resources being extracted in Africa, there is a huge environmental cost, and nobody cares about it, and nobody bats an eye on them. So our environment is suffering, the people are suffering.
So to round this up, what do you think we can do about it? What can Africans do about it? What can African leaders do about it? What can we as common people do about it?
To be honest, there is very little we can do. Whenever the people rise up, the CIA comes in. Like just Sudan now. A good example was Sudan. Sudan had a revolutionary grassroots movement that started to remove the 30-year-old dictator, more than 30 years old. What happened? They played that was really something that the Western society saw and got scared of and said, whoa, if the people are this much united and if the people have this much passion to freedom, they will be setting an example to other African countries. So what do we do? What is the best way to do? Let's cause a civil war. There is the general and there is the rapid forces, Jalan, whoever that guy is. So what they did was they created a civil war that the whole infrastructure, the livelihoods of Sudan has been devastated. And Somalia in the year 60s, 70s, we had one of the best, I would say, threat to America because our society was so united. Africa was pushing for pan-Africanism at that time and back in the day. And they didn't want that, so they gave the people a whole 3 decades long of civil war by funding the tribal leaders and telling them, putting against one another, giving the other group money, the other group weapons. They always play both sides of the war. And who benefits is these corporations that can come in to rebuild, to say extract the resources. And it's not only common to Africa, because now it's happening to Ukraine. So I don't want to say we are hopelessness, but what we can do as civilians, not also as only the diaspora living here, because we have the freedom to say all this about African leaders. If you say this on an African radio show, you're dead or you're gone. You'll never be found again. And the least is you could end up in jail and nobody will let you out. So if the people can't have the freedom of speech, if the people can't have the freedom to assemble each other, if the people cannot have the freedom to protest their governments, of course we are really in a bad place, we can't lie to ourselves and say, oh no, we're free, we can do that. But also we are in a very, very limited space to do something. So the solution is what happened in Burkina Faso, what happened in Mali, and what happened in Niger. In my whole life, I've been waiting for a moment like this to see. And for the first time in my living, to see Ibrahim Traore, and then Abdurrahman, and then Tiani, and Assimi Goita. It makes me really have a lot of hopes.
What Abdi is saying is it's like a chess game. There are a lot of things on the board that we have to look out to, and we have to start with just being aware of what is happening.
You said actually something nice. It's a chessboard, and the African leaders are the pawns, and then we have the European corporations. They are the bishop and the knight, and then you have America and France, Germany, and Britain being the castle, the queen, the king. So you summed up very nice.
Everything Ali does is Africa. He breathes Africa, he lives Africa, even though he's living in Belgium. Actually, this recording is taking place in the Netherlands. But as you get to know him more and more, you will see why he is a true son of Africa. So we're going to talk about pan-Africanism and the present leadership shown by the Sahel countries. How did pan-Africanism emerge there? Because these are countries that you never heard of before. I mean, they are there. We Africans, we know of them. But all of a sudden, it's like every African youth is talking of Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and maybe sometimes Senegal. They talk about, but the one name that always shoots out is Ibrahim Traore. So, can you give us your thoughts about this?
Well, I think Ibrahim Traore is the reincarnation of Thomas Sankara. And as the saying goes, you could kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. So, also when Thomas Sankara was assassinated in October 1987, and Ibrahim Traore being born in 1988, and Ibrahim Traore becoming on power at the same age around Thomas Sankara, has so much similarities that it makes you wonder, is reincarnation real?
On the other hand, don't you think the same fate is going to befall on him?
Yes, of course. They have tried to assassinate Captain Ibrahim Traore almost 5 times now, and as I hope this time Ibrahim Traore will create stable roots, even if he's gone, that the revolution can go on.
Yeah, because also now he's not alone.
Yeah.
There are 2 other leaders around in Niger and in Mali who seem to have the same kind of
yes, and they formed their first the Sahel Alliance. Amazing. They have now their passport. They love the ECOWAS, which is actually the left hand of America and the right hand of Europe, and led by some of the most corrupt African leaders. Nigeria is on that, the Nigerian president. So they left that and they created their own alliance. They have their own flag. And to come back to the question you asked me earlier, and that we don't hear about Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about it, is, of course, Ibrahim Traore came to fame and took the attention of a lot of youngsters when he gave that infamous speech about Africa is not poor and they're stealing our resources, when it was held in Russia. And from that day on, everybody was crazy about him. Some doubted him, and I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. Some said, no, he's gonna be that, or he's gonna not do anything. And the amount of things that Ibrahim Traore did is amazing.
Can you give us a couple of examples?
Yeah, just lately, he opened 50 hospitals, and there has been a video going viral. Tractors after tractors coming through Ghana, not from Ghana, but through Ghana. He's giving the farmers all the things they need: the land, the machineries, the fertilizers, the crops, the seeds. And it's not Bill Gates crops and Bill Gates seeds. It's good for the climate. It's not genetically modified. The farmers will have their own freedom to save their seeds from this production and harvest, and the next year they can plant their own. But now the GMO seeds that Bill Gates is trashing all over Africa is where the farmers become dependent on Bill Gates to ask seeds every year, because whatever you're growing is going to be seedless, which is crazy also. Not good for your health. So anyways, he did that. Ibrahim Traore opened tomato processing factory, sugar processing factory. I can go on. The latest he did was the first detergent. They opened a factory that creates detergent to wash things and everything. I think in all the African leaders that exist now, Ibrahim Traore has created so much jobs that it can be even more jobs than a whole bunch of African countries didn't yet create for their citizens. And the freedom, the education, and the unity, the roads being built, the hospitals, as I said, 50 modern hospitals were being built, the housing. It's just amazing, inspiring.
I mean, we're talking only of Ibrahim Traore now, but we still have the leader of Mali, the leader of Niger.
Yeah.
And why is he the one that is on everybody's lips?
Interesting, because I think, I have to be very careful to not minimize the impact of the Malian and Niger leader. They have done amazing things also. I would say Ibrahim Traore has not only been a military person. People mostly don't know that he's graduated as a biology, from the university, and he speaks the language that majority of youngsters cling on, like me. No disrespect for Abdurrahmani and the other leader, Goita, but Ibrahim Traore also, he revitalized the movement that Thomas Sankara left. So there is also this history. Before I was I'm still a big fan of Thomas Sankara. He's one of our ancestors that we should keep in our altar. And then when you see this new leader come and resembles this guy, so you take more attention. But I would also say Niger and Mali are also following what Ibrahim Traore said to do. It was first Burkina Faso that kicked out the French and that deposed the president, and then Niger or Mali, one of them followed.
My concern sometimes is they've deposed Western oriented leaders, but they are linked to Russia. So aren't we replacing one master with the other?
That's actually
because Russia also has Russia's interest at heart, not Africa's interest at heart.
Yes, this is actually one of the biggest counter questionnaires that always come up, not only against me or that I hear, but majority of people who talk about how the Sahel are, and Russia didn't colonize us. One, I'm not saying that Russia is all a good player in the world and Russia has their own, but Russia hasn't done anything bad to us. So as long as Russia hasn't done anything bad,
that we know.
Yeah, to be honest, we would have known. I would ask you, tell me, and Russia occupying an African country, Russia selling slaves, shipping out our people in chains. No, Russia hasn't done that. And the other thing why people want to work with Russia is, look at Ibrahim Traore now. When he went to talk to Putin, it wasn't like, oh, master, I'm kneeling down to you. No, Russians treat African leaders equally. And they don't want you to be like when Joe Biden or Obama, or I don't even want to mention Trump a lot, that they bow down to them, no. And second of all, now with all the industrialization that's going on in Burkina Faso, Russia plays a big role in it. They have no ownership of it. But they do give the blueprint, they do share technology, they do share the how-to-dos without robbing you or taking your dignity. So I wouldn't say we should trust Russia at all, but Russia doesn't have the capability to even colonize us. They couldn't have done that to Afghanistan. They were in a war for 20 years and they couldn't even win only Afghanistan. And I don't think, in my opinion, and most Pan-African thoughts share, is that Russia is not our enemy.
My problem sometimes is Traore has his tractor coming in, building hospitals and doing all of that. Where is the money coming from? That's one. And two, he has to find money somewhere. It's not money that was already there. So if he's taking a loan from Russia, Russia wants to get their money back. We see China taking over. China has never colonized us either.
Yeah.
But China owns almost the whole of Africa now.
That's a good point. I agree.
So the question is, how long do you think that the people of the Sahel are going to live in this paradise of beauty, paradise of hope, paradise of, dreams that they are at the moment? And actually, the other question, I'm asking a lot of questions now. The other question is, are the people there happy with their leaders?
One of the journalists of African Stream did a research and went to Sahel regions to see how the revolution is doing after 3 years, how the people of Sahel are living. And to be honest, what I have seen from that report and what I've seen from other channels and other social media or other YouTube reports, the most revolutionized communities live in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And they are so much pan-Africanist oriented. They are so much liberation oriented. It's just that they have been subdued by these puppets. And now that the puppet is gone, it has ignited the souls of those people. They don't have the luxuries that we share here or other Africans, and they don't need it. For them, luxury is not now the priority. Homeland or death. That is the saying of the Burkinabe people and also the Sahel region people. So the people are behind their leaders, no matter what these mainstream medias or news channels report. The people are so happy, and their chant is freedom or death. So that is the thing all Africans need to feel now.
Yeah, I think I will not be surprised if what you just said is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, because you see, democracy, my own personal opinion, I've made a podcast about that. Democracy is just fraud.
Yeah.
If it works in your country, doesn't mean it's going to work in my country. We have different cultures, different history, different backgrounds. So don't impose your system on me. There are things that are universal, that we respect each other, that we have enough food on the table, and all of that. But don't tell me your system is better than my system. I've lived under my system for millions of years. You've lived under your system millions of years. You are alive, I'm alive. So who has told you that your system is better? The fact that you have more money in your pocket than I do does not mean you are richer than I am. Because, like, I think it was Bob Marley who said that once. Some people are so rich, the only thing they have is money.
Yeah.
So if somebody drops dead in Europe on the streets, people are just going to walk by or make only films.
Africans will, who say they have a dinner cooked, they will invite you if you're passing by or anything. They will share with you the amount food that was for 4 people. They will share even for 7 or 6. But now in the Netherlands, when it's dinner time, you'll be asked to leave. That's the culture here.
Coming back to the chess analogy I used earlier, how long do you think it's going to take? Because no matter how much we dream about it, we wish it, these are still 3 very tiny little countries. So, and somebody is going to one day think like, hey, I want this peace, because if I install my own leader, my own spy there as leader, I'm going to get more resources. So how long do you think these Sahel leaders are going to stay there?
I'm not a future teller, but I hope as long as possible. And as you said earlier, whatever works for the Western democracy doesn't basically mean we have to use that in our countries.
No.
I think Paul Kagame now, the biggest puppetry, his people love him. Rwandese people will vote for him. Rwandese people still support him. And he has been there 30 years now, almost. I don't know if he's going to his 30th year. He will go. And I'm 100% sure that Ibrahim Traore is a pan-African liberator. He's going to be in the books of our history. Our children will be reading that he will be in the place of Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, because I'm guessing that they're also very smart people. They're aware of how these things work, and in legality, he could be 3 terms elected. In that 3 terms, the population of Sahel regions will be revolutionized, mentally decolonized, and of course, now you asked me earlier, how do they make the money? Because the people are going to have now health care. Before they couldn't go to a hospital, it was very far if they need their children are sick. Now there's a lot of hospitals. The farmers, Burkina Faso, I'm always coming back to Burkina Faso because it was the start of the revolution, and 80% of the people are farmers. But they never had tractors. The government was not subsidizing agriculture. Now, Ibrahim Traore is subsidizing agriculture. And you asked me, where do they get the money from? I just heard or read the news that came out. Barrick Gold paid Mali almost 400 million euros of
which
Barrick Gold, the Canadian company, who was not paying the taxes in the before. So they have a lot of money. They already nationalized all their uranium, all their gold, or their all, because they have full of resources.
There is also one thing you forgot in terms of letting their people unlearn everything they've learned before. Changing the names of the streets and monuments.
And lately also the judges who were wearing the European white wigs, they were taken off in Burkina Faso, and now they were African made. So this revolution, this ignites not only the souls of the people in Burkina Faso or Mali or Niger, but also people like me. And how long the longevity of this revolution we will only know when we start supporting it. That's why I want to say to any African people who felt hopelessness, it's time to support the Sahel Alliance. Because if the Sahel Alliance grows, even now, Senegal did a little called coup to France, It wasn't a military coup, but it was a democratically Western democracy elected president. And he kind of also doing this almost, he's giving the vibe of Ibrahim Traore, So I hope this becomes a virus to the colonials, that it spreads like wildfire. And so if you can see this, how do they make the money? Is this thing sustainable? Yes, it's very sustainable, because now they're also making everything. Let's say before you buy a tomato paste packed in a European country for African trying to kill us at the same time with poison, now it's processed in the same country, and the government paid more money to import those tomato boxes. But now it's processed there. It creates job not only for the people who are making the tomato, the farmers, the blick, the tin, the container is made there. The printing, the paper, the branding is made there. Do you know how much people will get job? How much people will pay back tax? I hope, I pray to the ancestors that this revolution ignites the whole of Africa.
We are talking of 3 countries, and if we add Senegal, we'll say maybe 4 countries. Why is that flame not going around in West Africa?
It will.
To start with.
It will. And what happened in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso wasn't small. It's a huge thing that happened. And also, don't forget the chessboard, the king and the queen, America and European countries.
The empire is going
The
to strike
empire,
back.
they already are. They've tried assassinating him. They started supplying weapons to the terrorists that are coming from Libya and the jihadists. They've been rampaging.
But wait, but they were there the whole time saying we are fighting against this jihadists. So what you say now is you think that they are arming the jihadists they were supposedly fighting against the whole time.
It would have been a conspiracy theory, but US aid, Boko Haram was on the paycheck of US aid. Al-Shabaab from Somalia was on the paycheck of US aid. US aid has been the front for all terrorism. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, the jihadists in the Sahel region, they're all funded by CIA. And France was funding them, training them, giving them weapons.
You are saying USAID is the one causing all the trouble, but they are there also saying we are fighting all this trouble.
No, they're never fighting. They keep the terrorists at bay. They train them more. They feed them. It's like you have a lion, and you chain that lion, and you say to the people, "Hey, I'm the zookeeper. I'm just keeping this lion. I'm fighting this lion." But in fact, you're not fighting the lion. You're just feeding the lion. You're making the lion fast, fat, and strong. And when the puppet doesn't agree with you, or when the puppet is disposed by its people, what you do is you release the lion on them. So that's what they do.
Deep.
Yeah, that's what they do. One of the most renowned that the whole world awakened to this reality is Taliban. America spent 3 trillion and 20 years fighting Taliban to just leave the Taliban to take Afghanistan. So these people, they don't fight. These terrorists, these are their arms. These are their pawns in the chessboard. And they can strike you with them too. They keep the rebels also. The rebels are also theirs. So even now, we don't know M23. We're just saying that it's Rwanda, is that or that. Maybe the order came from the above to release them on Eastern Goma to create more chaos.
Yeah,
so
because they've been dormant for a long time.
Yeah,
And then
they just rise to
now
power.
they just are taking over everything.
Yeah,
Africa is just a playground for a lot of nonsense.
a chessboard at the table.
A lot of nonsense because every little country or big medium country goes to Africa to just mess Africa up.
Yeah.
You have China big, you have America big, but you have old countries that have lost their glories like Britain, France going there. But then you have Turkey, you have UAE, Japan,
God, they're becoming
India,
too much.
and everybody just goes to Africa
Yeah.
just to mess us up.
Yep.
Because this is also a question of national or continental pride.
Yeah.
Why are we still in the 21st century allowing this to happen in our continent?
Back again. The puppet leaders that has been in power since the colonization has finished, and some of them have 30 years, some of them have 25, some of them are even maybe close to 40, is getting rid of these leaders. And the only way that Africa now, we are on the last stage of a decaying imperialist world. And the only way we can come up and not be stepped on and smacked by even small player countries like UAE or Turkey or Japan is the only way is taking our power on the top. So I pray to the ancestors that in every country rises a leader as passionate, as strong, as honest, and as committed to his people and to the continent in general. That's the only way, Femi. We need... I hope if a Nigerian general or a Senegal, actually no, because the president is doing good. Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, I hope you're listening. I hope you follow the footsteps of Ibrahim Traore. And I'm talking to not the generals who are trained by the Westerners and who's going to be another puppet like the one in Guinea, who took the power and then became, oh, okay, I'll be just following you guys, pay me my money, I'm done. I hope you guys take over the power and give back to the people. Power to the people.
You are actually saying we have to topple democracy.
Yes, we have to topple and topple and topple and topple. Like Trump said, dig, dig, dig. You remember? Africa has to topple and topple and topple all these puppets, because these are actually, for me, the people that I blame. Not the white person who's coming here to rob us, or the Western corporations that are coming to destroy our environmental resources, our environment. No, it's our leaders. So the more we topple them, the more countries will unite, the more alliances we will form. And once Congo is free, the heart of Africa is free. Congo is like the chase where you go to the checkmate. Yeah. So the moment we checkmate in Congo, and we've also the South African Working Party, Malema.
Economic freedom fighters.
Yeah, the economic freedom fighters coming from the south, the Sahel coming from the north, the eastern people rising, the western rising, and we all meet up in Congo, and then we raise the one flag of Africa in the heart of Congo. That is my dream. That is the revolution we need. We need the leaders to topple. Topple, topple, topple. That's my message, really. That's what we need. And maybe some of you educated people join the military so you can topple, 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 like Burkina Faso did Ibrahim Traore, you know? So really, honestly, there is no any other way.
So you think if this spreads like wildfire to other parts of Africa, Africa will be...
Yeah, under
better?
one flag, under one currency, under one leader, under one army.
Do you see whoever the president is of Egypt saying, now I'm just going to be a governor of a province in Africa?
Topple.
We are going to talk about colonial religions in Africa.
I remember the talk I had with you when I talked about religion. Somebody commented saying, "Oh, this is the Antichrist." I'm happy for the people who understood what I'm talking about, and I'm also happy that we had to do it again for the people who didn't understand. I'm not the Antichrist, I'm anti-colonial. That's two different terms. I don't know which Christ you're talking about, first of all. That blonde guy with the blue eyes is not Jesus Christ. I am a believer of Jesus Christ. The Spirit, I respect every religion, but also I am Jesus Spirit conscious. That's different, than worshipping a blonde, blue-eyed guy. Jesus was born in Palestine. He's a brown guy. So that I just wanted to reply back to that comment that I'm not the Antichrist. I'm anti-colonial. Coming back to the question you asked me, back in the Roman time, they said give the people shows and alcohol to keep them busy. And one of the shows in Africa is religion. Especially there are a lot of people. It shocked me not only in Ghana to know, but there are a lot of nonsense pastors going on around the world, in Africa. These people are, it's just, as Femi, I get really, really upset about knowing these pastors who are taking money from the people who work so hard for that money, people who are telling them, oh, I heal, I do that, and it's just, it's a disrespect for the intelligence of our people. That's one thing I wanted to say to the fake pastors, to the fake religious leaders that are flooded in Africa and running mega churches and taking the hard-earned money of the people. Second of all, the most important question that when mentioned about religion to me is, I ask them, it doesn't matter whether you're a Muslim or Christian or Jewish or whatever, they all believe in a figure that looks like them. And we, as black people, has been always my first question. Like, I had nothing against religion, and I didn't find it obnoxiously crazy thing until nobody could have answered me, why isn't there an image of God that looks like us? And nobody could have found the answer. And believing in this other people religion, the Arabs religion or the white man's religion, just proves that we are worth saving, that we are the barbarics, that we are the uncivilized, that God had to send other person looking like other people to come and teach us about his God or her God in their image. So that was one thing I always talked about. And religion was brought by the colonial masters. Religion, nobody just woke up, Kunta Kinte didn't wake up one day and say, oh, God talked to me in my dreams and we're going to cross the this or that, as it says in the Bible. But then we keep worshipping these deities that has nothing to do with us.
So in what ways do you think the colonial religions have altered our own indigenous belief system?
When colonization started, when the Western people, the white people, the Arabs, mostly we talk about European slave trade, but people forget about the Arab slave trade that happened, and they deny it or they counterattack it and whatever. The first person who did the imam is black, they say to me as a Muslim, and I'm like, oh, was he slave? Yeah, okay, I'm done. Thank you. So it was brought by the colonial masters. It came through the colonial masters in a way to keep the people busy, in a way to justify to them. It says if somebody slaps you in this cheek, give them the other cheek. But our ancestors will tell you slap him on the same cheek. So it was a mental colonialism that we are still suffering, and I don't think we will easily get rid of it. And I'm not actually against of it. If I was, let's say today, a leader of a country, I wouldn't tell people don't believe that or don't believe that, but I will also stop the criminalization of ancestral religions. And I will give the same rights, the same resources, and the same space to ancestral ways of spirituality. And second of all, I will not give the church tax-free. In Ghana,
because it's business.
Yeah, it's business. They make a lot of money. In Ghana, majority of real estate is owned by the Vatican Church. It's crazy. The amount of fenced states they own. It's like a whole city, a whole small town of Europe. Yeah, it's really crazy how we can believe still in a book that has no one African name in it.
The other question is, before the Western religion or the Eastern religion came, what were we worshipping in Africa?
Yeah, Benin had one of the biggest African spirituality, still known in history. They made us the devil and they made themselves the angels. They portrayed the angel as the white, glowing light, and the devil the dark. And they made whatever ancestral practices that we had, like voodoo. Now, when you say voodoo, it has been given so much bad name. People go, oh, and they think voodoo is somebody's going to put a love potion on you or make you sick or do a doll thing
But
on
even
you.
if somebody puts a love potion on you and that works,
You're the one.
shouldn't you, as the West, start to investigate how that can happen? That if I will put two things together,
Yeah.
and somebody,
It's
it
gonna-
affects that person, that falls in love with me or something, shouldn't you think these people are geniuses?
I think they would have taken from
Things-
us if it existed.
yeah, but-
they would have used themselves for Valentine's Day, selling it, publicly. But no, and I don't want to to misquote. Christianity also just didn't come through colonization, all of it. Every African country had their own spiritual practices, and Ethiopian Orthodox, it's way older than the Western Christianity. The Bible that's found in Ethiopia is way older than the Bible of King James. King James was a sick man. He was a sick man, mentally sick. Before he wrote the Bible, King James, he had 3 books written about demon and how to worship demon and how to summon demon. And then he's like, oh, let me write the Bible. And he took out all the other things. So There's a lot of contest about saying that Christianity wasn't brought by colonialization. It existed before that. Of course, it existed. The Orthodox Ethiopian religion outdates that if you go back to history, and which I totally agree, because that's 3,000 years old. It's not 400 slavery and colonization 40 years ago. So I don't want to misquote putting all religions aside. But there has been a renaissance of religion after colonization. If you go and also go into Lalibela, the historical church in Ethiopia, which was one of the 7 wonders or heritage, UNESCO heritage. Aksum, the obelisk of Aksum, where the Italians stole it and took it to Rome, and then they had to bring it back. They would have taken the pyramids if it was easy. So the Ethiopian Bible and the pictures that were depicted in the caves and in the church were black people. They looked like us. They assembled like us. The names were given were also Ethiopian names. But then all of a sudden now in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, all over Ethiopia, there is this blonde and blue-eyed Jesus all over the place, who didn't exist 3,000 years ago also. So in a sense, there is a part of African Christianity, the Ethiopian Orthodox, which is known as the Ethiopian Orthodox. It's not Catholic, or it's not Protestant, it's not shipped from, or evangelical or whatever, but it did exist. But they had their own image of God in the caves drawer. But now, in this DNA, in this generation, they have been all changed, and we don't know how it happened in Ethiopia. How did the blonde and blue-eyed Jesus came in there? And so other than Ethiopia, majority of African countries, it was a colonial aspect. Also in the time of slavery, black Americans were told, God, the Bible tells us to be your masters, and you the Pope gave
the charter to start slavery.
Voila. So the Vatican. So in a sense it's that, and in the second essence is I want to mention is the role that voodoo played in the liberation of Haiti. Yeah, so they're afraid after they saw what the ancestors can do, because also voodoo, I'm not really expert in voodoo, but I'm very open-minded in learning African spirituality. But voodoo is just about worshiping nature, the 4 elements of the world: fire, earth, water, and it's not to harm anybody. It's not to harm anybody. It's used to defend yourself. It was our ancestral ways of defending against evil, and then they took that from us, and then they reversed it, made it look all evil. And then they brought the religion, which was written by King James, a man who wrote
books about
demon and devil and worshipping devil. And when they had the West, when they had this falling with Russia, which was also good, Putin unveiled who they pray to. It's a black person. They pray for a person that looks like you, and you pray somebody who looks like them. That's sad, because if we remember our religion, the whatever it is, the image of Christianity was also as Ethiopian Orthodox by a black, but then it was hidden from whole Africa, and it was shown. And voodoo is not bad. Voodoo is not cursed. Voodoo is not as evil as they say, and that's what I mean. I have no problem against any African who's Christian or a Muslim. But I have problem with those who are against people like us, who have opened to our ancestral ways of spirituality. I believe from Somalia, before the Arab slavery and Islam came, we were linked with Kemet, Black Egypt. We were the descendants of the pharaohs. I just want to say that it's time to also learn about our ancestors, what they practiced.
We've not had enough time to explore the topic of the colonial religions and the effects they've had on Africa. So we are going to continue this discussion some other time. My name is Femi Shuewu. This has been the African Narrative Podcast, today in 3 parts with Ali Abdi. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Become a member of our channel. Follow us on all social media. Share, like, and just leave a comment. Until the next time, take good care of yourselves.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king. I think I'm a king.